Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. And today, before we dive in, I want to go over my preamble, especially when we're brushing up against politics in these segments. And quite frankly, I always say, if you're a longtime listener, you know this, cybersecurity is agnostic from politics, but we're not immune from it. And quite frankly, there is a new technology coming out regarding the immigration situation here in the United States, not coming from the United States, that I think may have some direct impact on this. And essentially what's happening here is that incoming U.S. migrants are going to get a panic button. Now, here's what's going on. Let me give you the backdrop here from the Associated Press, and then let's kind of dive in, because I think there's a can of worms here that we really need to discuss. Now, I will also say I do not care about your politics before we dive in. If you are 100% for mass deportation, you're 100% for amnesty, you're somewhere in the middle of that, whatever it is, that's not the point of this. The point of this is to have a discussion, and I would hope that no matter what side of the political argument you are on, that you would want everybody to be treated like I want everybody to be treated, which is with compassion and human rights, no matter what that looks like. So by virtue of that, I think that's a really important thing that we need to keep in mind, is that we are obviously talking about human beings, and therefore we should have some compassion and respect. So with that, don't care about your politics, let's dive in, because Mexico is developing an app for cell phones that will allow migrants, basically those attempting to cross the border or crossing the border into the United States. And for the record, we are not necessarily talking about illegal immigration as well. This is simply an app they are creating for migrants in general, so it could be legal or illegal. Essentially, this app will allow migrants to warn relatives and local consulates if they think they're about to be detained by U.S. immigration. And that is according to a senior Mexican official this past Friday. Now, this move is in response to President-elect, soon-to-be President Trump's essentially threats to carry out mass deportation after he takes office on January 20, 2025. Now, the app has been rolled out for small-scale testing and, quote, appears to be working very well, end quote. And that's according to Juan Ramon de la Fuente. He is Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Now, De la Fuente said that the app would allow users to press a tab that would then send an alert notification to previously chosen relatives and the nearest Mexican consulate. And so by virtue of that, you don't have to fumble with your phone. You just press a button and it kind of sends out an alert. Now, De La Fuente described it as a panic button of sorts. Quote, in case you find yourself in a situation where detention is imminent, you push the alert button and that sends a signal to the nearest consulate. Now, U.S. authorities are obliged to give notice to home country consulates when a foreign citizen is detained. So let's say you cross the border legally or illegally. If let's say you legally cross, but you're arrested or detained for some reason, they are required, in this case, to basically alert the Mexican government if you're Mexican. Now, Mexico says that it is now, by virtue of the incoming Trump administration, beefed up consular staff and legal aid to help migrants in the legal process related to deportation. De La Fuente also said that he expects the app to be rolled out in January. Now, he didn't say whether the app has a deactivation tab that would allow somebody to rescind an alert if they weren't really being detained. In other words, like a false positive. I think I'm being detained. I put up the panic button or whatever, and now I'm not. Maybe I can recall that. I don't know, and basically they're not saying that. But the government says it also has set up a call center staffed 24 hours a day to answer migrants' questions. The Mexican government estimates there are 11.5 million migrants with some form of legal residency, again, legal residency in the United States, and roughly 4.8 million without legal residency or proper documents. Now, I have so many questions on this in the sense of the technology, the security, and the privacy side of this. So, for example, is this only for migrants of Mexico? One of the things that's happening at the southern border is what's happening at the Mexican southern border, and that is migrants that are coming up from Central America that are able to cross into Mexico and then go to basically the southern border of the United States and cross over. So we may see somebody from Honduras or Belize or any one of the countries basically south of Mexico that are coming through, and by virtue of that, do they have this app, or is this just for Mexican migrants? Because obviously, if you're from Belize, locating or alerting the Mexican consulate's not going to do you any good. So can you program in the Belize consulate? Those kinds of things. That's the first question. The other thing that I think of as well is because these cell phones essentially are there, what the Mexican government may not be saying is that then gives them the ability to track potentially their migrant citizens in the United States with basically through GPS or the cell phone signal. This app could essentially fire off GPS coordinates of where the person's being detained or where the potential detention center is. And from what I've read, basically the Texas state government is building detention centers in anticipation of essentially post January 20th, then President Trump's inauguration, to basically as they start rounding these people up. So we're going to see what happens with this, but I think there are privacy implications. I think there are security implications, not just for any kind of migrant, again, legal or illegal. We're just talking about migration in general. But I think the point here is that I think what we're going to see overarchingly as a result of basically this policy, especially if they do enforce mass deportation, and we're seeing people essentially removed from the country en masse, governments are not really precise with this kind of thing, meaning we may see some legal immigrants basically caught up in this that have legal status or even possibly U.S. citizens. And so by virtue of that, it's going to be something that we're going to be wanting to sort out. Now, I don't know if that means if, you are Hispanic in some way, shape, or form, you should be carrying your passport to prove that you're an American citizen, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if you know my last name, I would hate to be caught up in that. I've been born here. I've lived here my entire life, right? So, so by virtue of that, I think these are questions that need to be answered. But by virtue of that, it also really behooves us to leverage the technology and communication we have to alert others, when we're in trouble. That could be on anything, right? I mean, if let's say I had kids that had a car, they could alert me immediately they're being pulled over by the police, even if it's for a speeding ticket. I, as a parent, would want to know, right? I would assume any parent would want to know that. So these are things that I think we have to take into account. But I think these government issue type apps are coming, which is pretty much the point of this. And by virtue of that, it's to protect and possibly track citizens. And maybe sometimes they need tracking, even though it's a privacy violation. I don't know. The Mexican government's not saying that, but leveraging the sea of sensors and communication system that is an Android or an iPhone, it'd be very easy to do that. So we'll see what happens. That is your news of the day. And again, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care if you're for mass deportation or for 100% amnesty or somewhere in between, whatever it is. Once again, the point is, let's just treat everybody with kindness and compassion. And that may mean they need to be deported, but we can be kind and compassionate while we do it. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.